Hello dear listeners, welcome back to Timeless Romance Tales. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more aristocratic danger, forbidden yearning, and the kind of romance that steals your breath and refuses to return it. Tonight's tale is one that begins in the shadows. It begins with a lady who opened the wrong door, and a duke who decided she would never walk away again. Let's begin. The Evermere estate slept under the midnight sky, but Lady Eliza Norwood was very much awake. Her father's study lamp still glowed faintly through the half-open window. He had forbidden her from entering the library tonight, claiming he had matters of grave seriousness to attend to. But Eliza had always been curious, always restless, always the sort of lady who pulled back veils others preferred untouched. Which was why she found herself gliding down the silent corridor, her pale night cloak sweeping behind her. She reached the door to the old courtroom, a room her father used centuries ago when Evermere authority had stretched over half the shire. She paused. Voices murmured inside, deep, commanding, angry. Her hand trembled as she pushed the door open a sliver. Inside, the room flickered with candlelight. 4 men stood near the judge's platform, shadows stretching tall against the walls. At the center was a prisoner tied to a chair, blindfolded. And at the head of the makeshift tribunal stood a man whose presence struck her like lightning. The Duke of Ashbourne. Tall, broad-shouldered, midnight hair, a jaw carved from stone and eyes like a storm kept barely leashed. She had seen him only once before at a winter ball, distant, dangerous, cold. Why was he here? Eliza held her breath. One of the men spoke sharply. "Your Grace, the vote is clear. The prisoner must be executed before dawn. He has committed treason." The prisoner's muffled cry echoed. Eliza's heart pounded. Treason? Execution? In her father's home? And then the Duke said, "We will not act yet. Not until I determine who leaked the letters." Eliza's slipper scuffed the floor. 3 heads snapped toward the door. The Duke's voice dropped to a terrifying quiet. "Who is there?" Eliza froze. The Duke strode forward, faster than she expected, and yanked the door fully open. Candlelight washed over her face. He stared down at her, expression darkening. "Lady Eliza? What are you doing here?" She swallowed. I heard voices. I thought someone was hurt." "You should not be here," he said, voice sharp as steel. "I see that now," she whispered. Behind him, one of the men muttered, "We cannot allow her to leave. She heard enough." Her blood went cold. I won't tell anyone, I swear." "I didn't understand what." "That is precisely the problem," the Duke cut in. "Ignorance is dangerous." She backed away, fear skittering up her spine. "Please. I will forget everything." "No," he said softly. "You won't." He reached out, fingers closing around her wrist, not cruelly but firmly, decisively. "Bring her inside." 2 men shut the door behind her with an echoing thud. Eliza's voice trembled. "What is happening? What is this trial? Why?" The Duke stepped close. She felt his breath against her cheek. "This is a matter of national security," he murmured. "And you, Lady Eliza Norwood, have witnessed what you should never have seen." Her pulse roared in her ears. "What will you do to me?" "Protect the information," he replied, though the way he studied her felt far more complicated. "And protect you whether you like it or not." He dismissed the other men with a flick of his hand. They escorted the prisoner out another door, leaving Eliza alone with him as the candles sputtered and swayed. When the room emptied, he exhaled slowly. "You should not have come here alone at this hour in that cloak," he said quietly. She lifted her chin. "You speak as if I plan to interrupt treason court." A dark, humorless smile touched his lips. "Most ladies would faint." "I'm not most ladies." "Exactly," he murmured, a strange heat entering his gaze. "That is why this is a problem." He walked around her slowly, as though circling a dangerous creature. "What did you hear?" he asked. Eliza hesitated. "Only that there was treason. And letters. And that you were making judgment." He stopped behind her. "You should not know any of that." She whispered. "I didn't ask to." "No," he said. "But the law makes no exceptions for accidents." Her breath caught. "What does that mean?" "It means," he said, stepping in front of her again, that you now possess knowledge punishable by death. Her heart plummeted. But I didn't do anything wrong. I know. His voice softened. But the crown does not gamble with secrets. Tears threatened to rise, but she forced them back. So what happens now? The Duke studied her for a long, unreadable moment. There are only 2 ways to ensure your safety, and the kingdom's. What are they? 1, he said. You disappear. Disappear, she echoed. You mean die? He said nothing. It was enough. She stumbled back. No. No, you can't. He stepped forward, catching her before she hit the chair. I will not harm you, he said fiercely. Understand that. Then what? The second option, he murmured, is binding your fate to mine. How? She whispered. Through marriage. The candles flickered violently as if shocked themselves. Eliza stared at him, stunned. Marriage? To you? You can't be serious. I am entirely serious, he said. If you become my duchess, your loyalty cannot be questioned. The crown will accept it. They always do. Her voice shook. But why me? You don't even know me. That changed tonight, he said quietly. You walked into a room no one else dared to. And you didn't scream. You didn't faint. You stood your ground. That's not enough reason to force marriage. He took a breath, expression unreadable. It is not the only reason. Silence stretched thick and fragile. Finally she whispered. You're giving me a choice between marriage and death. Yes, he said. Because those are the only choices I can offer. She swayed slightly. He steadied her with a hand at her waist. Think carefully, he murmured. Your answer decides both our futures. She stared up at him, the cold, intimidating Duke whose reputation whispered through every ballroom and corridor in London. His eyes, a stormy, impossible gray, held something fierce and tortured and strangely protective. She whispered, If I say yes, what happens next? We announce a sudden courtship, he said. An engagement. A wedding within a fortnight. Your reputation remains intact. And if I say no? His jaw tightened. Then I cannot guarantee what the crown will choose. Her breath shook. I don't know you, she whispered again. You will, he said softly. And I will give you my word. You will never regret choosing life. Or choosing me. His fingers brushed her cheek. Gentle, unexpected, devastating. Decide, Lady Eliza. Her throat tightened. She closed her eyes. And whispered, yes. The Duke exhaled a breath he hadn't known he was holding. So be it, he said quietly. You will not regret this, Eliza. He led her from the room with his hand firm at her back. She suspected, or perhaps hoped, that his grip lingered longer than necessary. The next morning the entire county erupted in whispers. The Duke of Ashbourne, the kingdom's most eligible bachelor, had visited Evermere at dawn, and by noon the announcement appeared. The Duke of Ashbourne is to wed Lady Eliza Norwood. Eliza sat in the drawing room as callers flooded the estate. Her mother wept with joy. Her father looked stunned. Her sisters shrieked in disbelief. Only one pair of eyes truly mattered. The Duke arrived that afternoon. He dismissed the footmen and approached her alone. Lady Eliza, he said softly. She curtsied. Your Grace. You agreed last night, he said. Do you still agree now in daylight? She hesitated, not because she doubted her choice, but because seeing him in the soft glow of the afternoon, without shadows to blur his face, was somehow more overwhelming. Yes, she whispered. He nodded once. Then allow me to court you properly. We must make society believe this was fate, not necessity. You mean you want to convince them you fell in love with me? He held her gaze. And perhaps convince you as well. Her breath caught. He offered his arm. Walk with me. She took it. Heat shot through her entire body. They walked through the gardens, the sunlight glinting off dew, their breaths aligning with each step. Will you tell me, she asked, what happened last night? The truth. He considered her. You will know everything, he said, once you are my wife. But until then, trust that I am protecting you from enemies you cannot yet see. Are there many? More than you imagine. She shivered. He drew her closer. You are safe with me, he murmured. Later that week, they attended their first public event together. A charity gala filled with lords and ladies hungry for gossip. Eliza stood beside him, heart hammering. People whispered as they passed. She? The new duchess? Why so sudden? Why her? The Duke tightened his hold on her waist. If anyone doubted her, he erased it with his presence, his authority, his unmistakable protectiveness. At one point, a baroness sneered. My dear, you must have done something incredible to secure a proposal so quickly. Eliza flushed. But before she could respond, the Duke spoke. Yes, he said softly, yet with ice in his tone. She did. The room stilled. He turned to Eliza, gaze warm enough to melt glass. She walked into my life when I least expected it, he said. And I knew instantly I would never let her go. Whispers rippled. Hearts fluttered. Eliza felt her knees weaken. When the night ended, the Duke escorted her to his carriage. The door shut behind them, sealing them in a cocoon of shadows and moonlight. Eliza, he said, voice thick with something she'd never heard from him before. Do you trust me? She looked up at him. At the man who could have condemned her to death but instead offered her his name, his power, his protection. I do, she whispered. He cupped her cheek. Good, he murmured. Because marrying me may save your life, but loving me will change it forever. Her breath trembled. And do you care for me? He leaned in, their lips nearly touching. More than I should, he confessed. More than is wise. But I will not deny it any longer. She whispered. Then kiss me. He did. A kiss that stole her breath, claimed her heart, and sealed her fate. The next morning the banns were read. The kingdom buzzed. And Eliza realized something terrifying and beautiful. She hadn't just chosen survival. She had chosen a man who would burn the world to protect her. A man who would love her with a dangerous, relentless devotion. A man she was already falling for, even before their vows were spoken. Because some secrets bind strangers together. And some dukes never let go once they've claimed what's theirs.